Welcome to IBT Radio Broadcasting from Newsroom Bataan. I am Santisas, your host for today, here to serve you all the leading news about international business and trade. For today's headline, the strategy and structure of international business firms expanding on an international level to increase their profitability. In order to maximize the profitability, they must adopt their strategy and structure for an international business environment. Today, we have Miss Ativo, Miss Joya, and Miss Dela Rosa to discuss the strategy of international business.
Good day everyone, I'm Razmin and I will introduce to you the strategy of international business. The strategy of international business is a combination of strategy, international environment, and firm performance. Importantly, we distinguish between revenue and profit. Even non-profit organization must generate enough revenue to cover costs in order to remain in business in the long run. Profit-driven businesses, on the other hand, frequently focus on generating more revenue than is required to cover costs, allowing them to profit from what they sell. I cover the numerous tactics that companies use when competing globally, as well as the benefits and drawbacks of each plan, as well as the various elements that influence a company's decision to adopt an international strategy. We have value creation, global value chain, and how multinational firms attain superior performance are all discussed in this chapter. Value creation is a core focus of the opening case of international strategies in the sharing economy. Instead of highlighting one company or scenario, we provide a discussion of several sharing economy companies. Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, and Turo are some of the most powerful examples. We have the Airbnb. Airbnb was founded in 2008 by Brian Czachie, Joe Gibbia, and Nathan Lecharge as a way to disrupt the hospitality industry and offer lodging alternatives and tourism experiences worldwide. The next one is the Uber. Uber was founded in 2009 by Garrett Camp and Travis Kalanick. In 2011, the name was shortened to Uber. In 2012, Uber introduced UberX, a service that allows entrepreneurs to join the Uber family. Today, Uber operates across 6 continents in several hundred locations. Thanks to the way Uber disrupted the taxi market, partly through its clever marketing, Uber is now known across the globe. The third one is Lyft. Lyft began in 2012 and was founded by John Zimmer and Logan Green. Lyft is Uber's fiercest competitor in the United States and Canada. Like Uber, Lyft is valued in the billions of dollars, having seen an infusion of $500 million in 2016 from General Motors. And lastly, we have Turo. Turo is a peer-to-peer car-sharing company formerly known as Relay Rides that was founded by Shelby Clark in 2010 in Boston, Massachusetts. Shelby Clark first tried car-sharing when his car died after a cross-country move. Turo is now headquartered in San Francisco like Uber, Lyft, and Lime. So whether it's Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, Turo, or any of the other numerous options we have as customers in the global sharing economy marketplace, disrupted market forces will continue to demand new, innovative products and services. Our next topic is the strategy and the firm. When we talk about strategy and the firm, we usually refer to the firm as a method of organizing activities. However, a small and medium-sized enterprise, SME, is a distinct type of company. SMEs are businesses with fewer than 500 or fewer than 250 employees. A firm strategy can be defined as the actions that managers take to achieve firm's goal. Their must pursue strategies that increase the enterprise's profitability and rate of profit growth over time. The next topic is the value creation. It is the way to increase the profitability of a firm is to create more value. The amount of value a firm creates is generally measured by the difference between its cost of production and the quality that consumers perceive in its products. In general, the more value customers place on a firm's products, the higher the price the firm can charge for those products. We have profitability. Profitability can be measured in a variety of ways, but for consistency, we define it as the firm's rate of return on invested capital or ROI, which is calculated by dividing the firm's net profits by total invested capital. The next one is the profit growth. It is defined as the percentage increase in net profits over time. In general, higher profitability and a faster rate of profit growth will increase the value of an enterprise and thus the return to its owners, the shareholders. Managers can boost the firm's profitability by pursuing cost-cutting strategies that add value to the firm's products, allowing the firm to raise prices or keep its existing customer base. Managers can accelerate the firm's profit growth over time by pursuing strategies to sell more products in existing markets or entering new markets. Making the decision to expand internationally can help managers increase the firm's profitability and profit growth rate over time. The firm's value creation is measured by the difference between V and C. A company creates value by converting inputs that cost C into a product on which consumers place a value of V. A company can create more value of V and C, either by lowering production costs, C, or by making the product more attractive through superior design, styling, functionality, features, reliability, after-sales service, and the like, so that consumers place a greater value on it, and consequently are willing to pay a higher price. This discussion suggests that a firm has high profits when it creates more value for its customers and does so at a lower cost. We refer to a strategy that focuses primarily on lowering production costs as a low-cost strategy. We refer to a strategy that focuses primarily on increasing the attractiveness of a product as a differentiation strategy. Michael Porter has argued that low cost and differentiation are two basic strategies for creating value and attaining a competitive advantage in an industry. According to Porter, superior profitability goes to those firms that can create superior value. And the way to create superior value is to drive down the cost structure of the business or differentiate the product in some way so that consumers value it more and are prepared to pay a premium price. So that's all for today, guys. Thank you.
Good day, Philippines, and good day, Manila. For the headlines, the firm as a value chain. The value chain is the set of linked activities the company performs to design, produce, market, distribute, and support a product. It consists of primary activities and support activities. Primary activities. Primary activities have to do with the design, creation, and delivery of the product. Primary activities are divided into 4 functions, mainly research and development, production, marketing and sales, and customer service. Research and development. It is concerned with the design of products and production processes. Through superior product design, research and development can increase the functionality of products, which makes them more attractive to consumers and may result in more efficient production processes. Next is production. It is concerned with the creation of a good or a service. For physical products, we generally mean manufacturing. For services such as banking or healthcare, production typically occurs when the service is delivered to the customer. Marketing and sales functions. Through brand positioning and advertising, the marketing function can increase the value that consumers perceive to be contained in a firm's product. For example, Ford produced a high-value version of its Ford Expedition SUV, sold as the Lincoln Navigator and priced around $10,000 higher. The Navigator has the same body, engine, chassis, and design as the Expedition. But through skilled advertising and marketing, Ford has fostered the perception that the Navigator is a luxury SUV. This marketing strategy has increased the perceived value of the Navigator relative to the Expedition and enables Ford to charge a higher price for the car. Customer service. The role of the enterprise's service activities to provide after-sales service and support. This function can create a perception of superior value in the minds of consumers by solving customer problems and supporting customers after they have purchased a product. Support activities. The support activities of the value chain provide inputs that allow the primary activities to occur. These are logistics function, human resources function, and company infrastructure. Profitability and profit growth summary. We have seen how firms that expand globally can increase their profitability and profit growth by entering new markets where indigenous competitors lack similar competencies, by lowering costs and adding value to their product offering through the attainment of location economies, by exploiting experience effects, and by transferring valuable skills between their global network of subsidiaries. This is Jean-Marie de Joya reporting.
Hi, I'm Maria Elisha de la Rosa, always at your service to provide learnings to you, our dearest listeners. The next topic we're going to tackle is about on how cost pressures and pressures for local responsiveness influence the strategic choice of international business. Firms that compete in global marketplace typically face two types of competitive pressures that affect their ability to realize location economies and experience effects to leverage products and transfer competencies and skills within the enterprise. They face pressures for cost reductions and pressures to be locally responsive. Responding to pressures for cost reductions requires that a firm try to minimize its unit cost. But responding to pressures to be locally responsive requires that a firm differentiates its product offering and marketing strategy from country to country or within regions or segments in a country. Because we are considering the diverse demands arising from national differences in consumer needs and wants, business practices, distribution channels, and competitive conditions and government policies. So, the two competitive pressures place conflicting demands on a firm. The first one is pressures for cost reductions. Responding to pressures for cost reduction requires a firm to try to lower the cost of value creation. Cost reduction is the process used by companies to reduce their costs and increase their profits. It may be a manufacturing company that switched to low-cost foreign suppliers in an attempt to reduce costs, or a service business that moved to developing nations where wage rates are lower. Pressures for cost reduction can be particularly intense in industries producing commodity-type products where meaningful differentiation on non-price factors is difficult and price is the main competitive weapon. These tend to be the case for products that serve universal needs. Universal needs exist when the tastes and preferences of consumers in different nations are similar if not identical. One of the best examples is petroleum. Pressures for cost reductions are also intense in industries where major competitors are based in low-cost locations or where there is persistent excess capacity and where consumers are powerful and face low switching costs. Now, let's talk about the pressures for local responsiveness. Pressures for local responsiveness arise from national differences in consumer needs and wants, infrastructure, business practices, distribution channels, and from host government demands. Responding to pressures to be locally responsive requires a firm to differentiate its product and marketing strategy from country to country to accommodate these factors, all of which tends to raise the firm's cost structure. First factor is differences in customer taste and preferences. There is strong pressure in local responsiveness when customer taste and preferences differ significantly between countries, as they often do for deeply embedded historic or cultural reasons. This typically creates pressures to delegate production and marketing responsibilities and functions to a firm's overseas subsidiaries, because a multinational's products and marketing message have to be customized to appeal to the tastes and preferences of the local customers. Next factor is the differences in infrastructure and traditional practices. It also brings pressures for local responsiveness by creating a need to customize products accordingly. Fulfilling this need may require the delegation of manufacturing and production functions to foreign subsidiaries. The differences in distribution channels is another factor which may necessitate the delegation of marketing functions to national subsidiaries. These differences in channels require that companies adopt their own distribution and sales strategy. The fourth factor in pressures to local responsiveness is the host government demands, in which economic and political demands imposed by host country governments may require local responsiveness. For example, pharmaceutical companies are subject to local clinical testing, registration procedures, and pricing restrictions, all of which make it necessary to the manufacturing and marketing of a drug should meet local requirements, because governments and government agencies control a significant proportion of the health care budget in most countries, and they are in powerful position to demand a high level of local responsiveness. Last but not the least factor is the rise of regionalism. Taking a regional perspective is important because it may suggest that localization at the regional rather than the national level is appropriate strategic response. The ability to standardize a product offering within a region allows for the attainment of greater scale of economies and hence lower costs than if nation that had to have its own offering. Managers must thus make a judgment call about the appropriate level of aggregation given the product market they are looking at and the nature of national differences and trends of regional convergence. Let's now proceed in choosing a strategy of international business. It may not be possible or even realistic to think that a firm can serve the global marketplace from a single low-cost location, producing a globally standardized product and marketing it worldwide to attain the cost reduction associated with experience effect. The need to customize the product to local conditions may work against the implementation of such a strategy. So the question is, how do differences in the strength of pressures or cost reductions versus those for local responsiveness affect a firm's choice of strategy? The answer is, firms typically choose among four main strategic postures when competing internationally. This can be characterized as a global standardization strategy, a localization strategy, a transnational strategy, and an international strategy. The appropriateness of each strategy varies given the extent of pressures for cost reductions and local responsiveness. So the first one is global standardization strategy. Firms that pursue a global standardization strategy focus on increasing profitability and profit growth by reaping the cost reductions that come from economies of scale, learning effects, and location economies. They prefer to market a standardized product worldwide so that they can reap the maximum benefits from economies of scale and learning effects. A global standardization strategy makes the most sense when there are strong pressures for cost reductions and demands for local responsiveness are minimal. The second strategy is the localization strategy. A localization strategy focuses on increasing profitability by customizing the firm's goods and services so that they are provided a good match to taste and preferences in different national markets. By customizing the product offering to local demands, the firm increases the value of the product in the local market. Firms pursuing a localization strategy still need to be efficient and still have to keep an eye on cost whenever possible to capture some scale of economies from their global reach. The third strategy is the transnational strategy. The flow should be from foreign subsidiary to home country and from foreign subsidiary to foreign subsidiary. The transnational enterprises, in other words, must also focus on leveraging subsidiary skills. Firms that pursue a transnational strategy are trying to simultaneously achieve low cost through location economies, economies of scale, and learning effects, differentiate their offering across geographic markets to account for local differences, and foster a multidirectional flow of skills between different subsidiaries in the firm's global network of operations. The strategy is not an easy one to pursue since it places conflicting demands on the company. So the last strategy is the international strategy. The enterprises that are in fortunate position of being confronted with low cost pressures and low pressures for local responsiveness have pursued an international strategy, which is taking products first produced for their domestic market and selling them internationally with only minimal local customization. Enterprises pursuing an international strategy have followed a similar development pattern as they expanded into foreign markets. They tend to centralize product development function at home and to establish manufacturing and marketing functions in each major country and geographic region in which they do business. So to conclude all the strategies, we must remember that global standardization strategy makes most sense when cost pressures are intense and demands for local responsiveness are limited. Conversely, a localization strategy makes most sense when demands for local responsiveness are high but cost pressures are moderate or low. And according to some researchers, pursue what has been called a transnational strategy when the firm simultaneously faces both strong cost pressures and strong pressures for local responsiveness. And lastly, if a firm is in fortunate position of being confronted with low cost pressures and low pressures for local responsiveness, international strategy is the one to pursue. So that's all. Thank you.
Next up, we have Miss Medina, Miss Mendoza, and Miss Naga to talk about and discuss the organization of international business. But before that, let me tell you something about the organizational architecture before we proceed with our guest. Organizational architecture is the totality of firm's organization. It must match with a global strategy to ensure the strategy is deployed. And without the organizational architecture, the strategies won't matter. Is that right, Miss Medina?
That's right, Ford, and that is why organizational architecture is so important for a business, especially for international business. By the way, I am Denice Medina, and today I'll be discussing the first element of the organizational architecture, which is the organizational structure. So the organizational structure is a system that outlines how certain activities are directed in order to achieve the organization's goal or objectives. Organizational structure has three dimensions. It is the first, vertical differentiation, which refers to the location of decision-making responsibilities within a structure. Second is the horizontal differentiation, which refers to the division of activities into subunits. And third is the integrating mechanisms, which are mechanisms for achieving coordination between subunits within an organization. First is the vertical differentiation. It refers to the location of decision-making responsibilities within a structure. It is divided into two categories, which are the centralization and decentralization of decision-making responsibilities. First is the centralized decision-making. Centralized decision-making facilitates coordination and integration of all operations. It allows managers to bring about organizational change, and it ensures decisions correlate with the organization's goal or objectives, and it avoids duplication of activities that occur when similar activities are carried on by various subunits. The second one is the decentralized decision-making. It increases control by allowing employees at all levels of the organization to be more motivated, as they have more control over the daily activities. It relieves the burden of centralized decision making, and it allows for greater flexibility in decision making, which result in better decisions. Next is the horizontal differentiation. Horizontal differentiation refers to the formal division of the organization into subunits. Under the horizontal differentiation, there is the functional structure and the product divisional structure. In functional structure, organization is split into functions reflecting the firm's value creation activities. Most domestic firms start with no formal structure. They are either run by a single entrepreneur or a small team, but as they grow, the demand for management becomes big for them. So they create a functional structure that starts or headed by the top management, and under the top management, there is purchasing, manufacturing, marketing, and finance. Under each of the business function are their own sub-units. Next is the product divisional structure. In product divisional structure, this is where each division is responsible for distinct product line. This is a typical product divisional structure. Under the headquarters, there are divisions for each product line, and under each product line are the different functions. As you can see, under the division product line B, there are functions just like the functional structure. The departments for purchasing, manufacturing, marketing, and finance. Basically, there is a functional structure under each division of product line. And the last dimension of the organizational structure is the integrating mechanisms. So, integrating mechanisms are the mechanisms for achieving coordination between subunits within an organization. It helps to increase the communication and coordination so that different divisions can work together to solve problems. And there are 6 common integrating mechanisms. I'll be discussing from the simplest to the most complex. So first is the direct contact. This is the simplest integrating mechanisms, where managers of various subunits just contact each other whenever they have a concern. Second is the liaison roles. It helps to communicate information from one division of a business to another. Typically, someone in management acts as a liaison. There should be a liaison in each department of the enterprise to allow all information to be communicated effectively. Third is the task forces. Task forces are temporary cross-functional work groups that are assigned to solve a particular problem. A task force comes together for a short period to assist in resolving a problem. The task force is made of individuals from different divisions. And fourth is the cross-functional team. Managers meet regularly in permanent committees to coordinate activities. It's just like the task forces, but the cross-functional team is permanent. Next is the integrating role and department. Integrating role and department. A new role or department is created to coordinate the activities of two or more functions or divisions. And last is the most complex, the matrix structure. The matrix structure is used when the need of integration is very high. Firms may institute a matrix structure in which all roles are viewed as integrating roles.
Good day everyone, I am Maria Angela S. Mendoza and I will tackle about control systems. First, personal control. Personal control is control by personal contact with subordinates. This type of control tends to be most widely used in small firms, where it is seen in the direct supervision of subordinates' actions. However, it also structures the relationships between managers at different levels in multinational enterprises. For example, the CEO may use a great deal of personal control to influence the behavior of his or her immediate subordinates, such as the heads of worldwide product divisions or major geographic areas. The second one is bureaucratic controls. This control is through a system of rules and procedures that directs the actions of subunits. The most important bureaucratic control in subunits within multinational firms are budgets and capital sending rules. Budgets are essentially a set of rules for allocating a firm's financial resources. The third one is output controls. It is the setting of goals for subunits to achieve and express these goals in terms of objective performance metrics and compare actual performance against targets, intervene selectively to take corrective action. Fourth one, cultural controls. This control involves setting goals for subunits to achieve and express these goals in terms of relatively objective performance metrics such as profitability and market share. The need for coordination is greatest in transnational firms. And now let's go to incentive systems. What is incentive systems? In organizational settings, this is a set of rewards and rules for their disbursement that is designed to influence future performance. Incentives vary in motivating power from group to group. As well as increased pay, common incentives include pensions, gain-sharing schemes, performance-related bonuses, employee stock shares, gym memberships, and corporate entertainment. The last one, performance ambiguity. This exists when the causes of subunits' poor performance are not clear. This is common when a subunit's performance is dependent on the performance of other subunits. According to a recent by Gallup, ambiguity is one of the type 5 reasons for employee burnout. Only 60% of workers can strongly agree that they know what is expected of them at work. The lack of clarity around expectations causes employees to feel drained. Clear communication between a manager and employee, in conjunction with transparency with regard to goals, can prepare your employees to handle challenges with confidence. All for my part, let's go to the next reporter.
Good day, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Angela Mendoza, for sharing your knowledge with us. So now, let us know what is processes. Processes, defined as the manner in which decisions are made and work is performed within the organization, can be found at many different levels within an organization. There are processes for formulating strategy. First, processes for allocating resources, processes for evaluating new product ideas, processes for handling customer inquiries and complaints, processes for improving product quality, and last, processes for evaluating employee performance. Efficient and effective processes can lower the cost of value creation and add additional value to a product. For example, the global success of many Japanese manufacturing enterprises is based in part on their processes for improving product quality and operating efficiency. The competitive success of 3M, for example, can in part be attributed to a number of processes that have been widely promoted within the company. So next is organizational culture. Organizational culture refers to the norms and value system that are shared among the employees of an organization. Organization can be viewed as a society of individuals who come together to perform a common goal. They have their own distinctive patterns of culture and subculture. So what are the importance of culture to your company? Organizational culture affects all aspects of your business, from punctuality and tone to contract terms and employee benefits. When workplace culture aligns with your employees, they are more likely to feel more comfortable, supported, and valued. Companies that prioritize culture can also weather difficult times and change in the business environment and come out stronger. So next is, what are the qualities of a great organizational culture? First, alignment. So alignment comes when the company's objectives and its employee motivation are all pulling in the same direction. Exceptional organizations work to build continuous alignment to their vision, purpose, and goals. Appreciation. Appreciation can take many forms: a public kudos, a note of thanks, or a promotion. A culture of appreciation is one in which all team members frequently provide recognitions and thanks for the contribution of others. Trust. Trust is vital to an organization. With a culture of trust, team members can express themselves and rely on others to have their back when they try something new. Next is performance. Performance is key, as a great companies create a culture that means in business. In show, these companies' talented employees motivate each other to excel, and as shown above, greater and productivity as the result. Resilience is a key quality in highly dynamic environment where change is a continuous. A resilient culture will teach leaders to watch for and respond to change with ease. And last, teamwork. Teamwork encompasses a collaboration, communication, and respect between the team members. When everyone on the team supports each other, employees will get more done and feel happier while doing it. And last is the transnational strategy. Any business with centralized operation based in one country but additional overseas operation and asset is defined as transnational. A transnational strategy determines the level of global integration and local responsiveness for a given brand. This isn't the only way companies expand globally. In fact, many companies choose entirely different methods of expansion, such as international strategy, when business focus on imports and export, keeping most of their operation in their home country. Luxury product, especially food and wine, often use this strategy because the country of origin matters to customer. Second is multi-domestic strategy. When business use completely different sales, marketing, and product strategy based on the specific companies they're operating in. Rather than one global brand, there are many smaller, country-specific brands. The chocolate manufacturer Nestle is an excellent example of this. And why it's so much fun to go to the candy aisle in the grocery store when they're traveling. Next is Global strategy. When business define one global brand, making little to zero chains for other markets. Apple, iPhone, MacBook, and iPad are examples of this. While the software and keyboards may be localized, the brand is the same everywhere you go. So what are the 5 transnational strategy examples? First is McDonald's, Unilever, Nike, Samsung, and Coca-Cola. So, because McDonald's has 36,000 fast food locations in more than 100 different countries worldwide. And Unilever, the parent company for over 400 brands like Lipton Tea, Dove, Axe, and Vaseline, operates 190 countries. Nike, sneakers and sports apparel can be found in 170 countries. Samsung, the Korean electronic company, now open 74 countries. Last is the Coca-Cola, operates in more than 200 countries and takes a localization approach. That means you can order Coke, a Coca-Cola, or a Coca, depending on the global market. That's all. Thank you.
And for our last news for today, entry strategy and strategic alliances. In general, companies go international because they want to grow or expand their operation. The benefits of entering international markets include generating more revenue, competing for new sales, investment opportunities, diversification, reducing costs, and recruiting new talents. To learn more about the entry strategy and strategic alliances, please listen for our next reporters, Miss Pinlac, Miss Salonga, and Miss Servera.
Another issue that an international business needs to consider when contemplating market entry is the scale of entry. Of course, entering market in a large scale will involve the commitment of significant resources. Not all firms have the resources necessary to enter on a large scale, and even some large firms prefer to enter foreign markets on a small scale, and then build slowly as they become more familiar with the market. The consequences of entering on a significant scale, entering rapidly, are associated with the resulting strategic commitments. A strategic commitment has a long-term impact and is difficult to reverse. Small-scale entry allows the firm to learn about the foreign market while limiting the firm's exposure to that market. Small-scale entry is a way to gather information about the foreign market before deciding whether to enter on a significant scale and are best to enter. Basically, many companies enter a foreign market on a small scale so they can limit their potential losses. Next, we will answer the question, is there a right way to enter foreign markets? The answer is no. There are no right decision when deciding which markets to enter and the timing and scale of entry. Just decisions that are associated with different level of risk and reward. The importance of a company's strategy cannot be underestimated. They have to know how to use the resources properly and be resourceful when there are none. These are 6 different ways to enter a foreign market. The first way of entering a foreign market is through exporting. It is a common first step for many manufacturing firms. It offers the prospect of new markets, more sales, better profits, and greater spreads of customers. Some firms begin with exporting, then later they may switch to another mode. Second is the turnkey projects, which the contractor handles every detail of the project for a foreign client, including the training of operating personnel. Once the contract is completed, the foreign client is handed the key to plant that is ready for a full operation. Many government-owned public housing projects abroad are turnkey projects. A private developer undertakes all activities necessary to producing the projects, including land purchases, permits, plans, and construction, and sells the project to the housing authority. Another way of entering foreign market is by a licensing. A licensor grants the right to intangible property to the licensee for a specified time period, and in return receives a royalty fee from the licensee. A company may license another organization to use its patents, inventions, formulas, processes, designs, copyrights, and trademarks, all in exchange for what we call royalty fee. So, a company well known for licensing agreement is Starbucks. Starbucks does not franchise its stores, but it does offer select retail applicants a license to operate a Starbucks outlet once they decide on a location, complete an application, and follow up with an email. Another way of entering foreign market is through franchising, a specified form of licensing in which the franchisor not only sells intangible property to the franchisee, but also insists that the franchisee agree to abide by strict rules as to how it does business. A company that is well known for franchising strategy is McDonald's. Franchisee operates around 90% of McDonald's restaurants in the United States and 81% of its restaurants all over the world. In a franchising model, the franchisee uses another firm's successful business model and brand name to operate what is effectively independent branch of the company. The franchisor maintains a considerable degree to control over the operations and processes used by the franchisee, but also helps with things like branding and marketing support that aid the franchise. Another way of entering foreign markets is via joint ventures with a host country firm, where a firm that is jointly owned by two or more otherwise independent firms. Establishing a joint ventures with a foreign firm has long been a popular mode for entering a new market. So, the most common joint venture is one with 50-50 partnership, though a company may want to have more ownership, and that just means that there will be more restrictions, especially from the host country side. Another method of entering a foreign market is through wholly owned subsidiary. The firm owns 100% of the stock. Establishing a wholly owned subsidiary in a foreign market can be done in two ways. The firms either can set up a new operation in that country, often referred to as a greenfield venture, or it can acquire an established firm in that host nation and use that firm to promote its product. Next is we're going to see why a company may want to choose any of the options given. So first, why choose exporting? Exporting is attractive because it avoids the cost of establishing local manufacturing operations, so you simply manufacture from home country and then send these products abroad where there is a demand for that product. Exporting can also be unattractive because there may be a lower cost manufacturing locations which an exporter may not enjoy. It is also high transport costs and tariffs can make it uneconomical. So of course, if you're manufacturing from one country and have to send the products to another country, that can be very costly. How about for turnkey arrangement? Turnkey projects are attractive because they are a way of earning economic returns from the know-how required to assemble and run a technologically complex process. So, for example, the governments of many oil-rich countries have set out to build their own petroleum refining industry so they can restrict FDI or foreign direct investment in their oil refining sectors. But because many of these countries lack petroleum refining technology, they gain it by entering into turnkey projects with foreign firms that have the technology. On the other hand, the turnkey projects are unattractive because the firm has no long-term interest in the foreign country. This can be a disadvantage if that country subsequently proves to be a major market for the output of the process that has been exported. Now, we move on to licensing. So, licensing, just like those that have been mentioned previously, can also be attractive or unattractive. Licensing is attractive because the firm avoids development costs and risks associated with opening a foreign market. Take note that in a typical international licensing deal, the licensee puts up most of the capital necessary to get the overseas operation going. The licensing is unattractive because it does not give a firm the tight control over manufacturing, marketing, and strategy that are required for realizing experience curve and locations economies. We now go to franchising. Franchising is attractive because firms can quickly build a global presence. So look at McDonald's. It was able to build a global presence at a relatively low cost and risk. Franchising is unattractive because it inhibits the firm's inability to take profits out of one country to support competitive attacks in another, because this might be covered in their agreements and the one cannot simply just go against that agreement. Now, we answer the question, why choose joint ventures? Joint ventures are attractive because firms benefit from a local partner's knowledge of the local market, culture, language, political systems, and business systems, which can be very costly if they have to study on their own. Joint ventures are unattractive because the firm risks giving control of its technology to its partners, so to minimize this kind of risk, an agreement related to this must be prepared. How about for a wholly owned subsidiary? Wholly owned subsidiaries are attractive because they reduce the risk of losing control over core competencies. So this is the very reason why many high-tech firms prepare this entry mode for overseas expansion. So, for example, companies that are into semiconductor business, electronics, and others. Wholly owned subsidiaries are attractive because the firm bears the full cost and risk of setting up overseas operations. In short, this is probably the most costly method of serving a foreign market from a capital investment standpoint. Now, how do core competencies influence entry mode? It is important to note that companies often expand internationally to earn greater returns from their core competencies, transferring the skills and products derived from the required competencies to foreign market where indigenous competitors lack those skills, and the optimal entry mode depends on the nature of the firm's core competencies. When competitive advantage is based on proprietary technological know-how, the company will probably avoid licensing and joint ventures unless a technological advantage is only transitory or it can be established as the dominant design, otherwise it has entered the country via a wholly owned subsidiary. On the other hand, when the competitive advantage is based on management know-how, the risk of losing control over the management skills is not high, and the benefits from getting greater use of brand names is significant. Because of that, companies may now favor a combination of franchising and subsidiaries to control the franchises within particular countries or regions. The subsidiaries may be wholly owned or joint ventures, but most companies have found that joint ventures with local partners work best for the controlling subsidiaries.
What are the basic decisions firms make when expanding globally? Firms expanding internationally must decide on the following. First, which markets to enter. Second, when to enter them and on what scale. And third, which entry mode to use. So, are we going to use exporting, licensing, or franchising, establishing a joint venture with a local company, establishing a new wholly owned subsidiary, or acquiring an established enterprise? So, what influences the choice of entry mode? So, this would now include but are not limited to the following: transport costs, trade barriers, political risks, economic risks, costs, and firm strategy. The optimal mode varies by situation. What makes sense for one company might not make sense for another. For example, a company may be very conscious about political risks, but the other companies may not. So, next topic is about which foreign markets should firms enter. The choice of foreign markets will depend on the long-run profit potential. A company is not going to choose a place where they're going to lose a lot of money. So, favorable markets have the following characteristics. First are those markets that are politically stable. This is important for business environments as it affects investors and consumers' confidence, thus having a wider impact on the economy. Changes in political stability have implications for investments, consumption, and economic growth. Next characteristic is having free market systems. It is also important because they have policies that are favorable to the business. Next is having relatively low inflation rates and having low private sector debt. Markets are also more attractive when the product in question is not widely available and satisfies an unmet need. For example, if my company manufactures fabrics, a country where the demand for fabrics is high and yet the supply is low is an attractive market. Now, when should a firm enter a foreign market? Entry is considered early when an international business enters a market prior to the other foreign firms, while it is considered late when it entered after other firms have already established themselves in the market. So, why enter a foreign market early? A company may choose to enter early or be a first mover. Its advantages include the following: the ability to preempt rivals by establishing a strong brand name. Next is to build a sales volume and ride on the experience curve ahead of rivals and gain a cost advantage over late entrants. Lastly, the ability to create switching costs that tie customers into products or services, making it difficult for later entrants to win business. So there are a lot of benefits that a company can enjoy if he will now choose to become a first mover or enter foreign market early. Now, why other companies enter foreign market late? Being a first mover can also be disadvantageous. One of the disadvantages of being a first mover is what we call pioneering costs, and this arises when the foreign business system is so different from that in the home market that the firm must devote considerable time, effort, and expense to learn the rules of the game. Out of excitement, a company may find itself entering a country that it doesn't know so much about, and if that happens, there might be a lot of risks. In short, some companies choose to be a late entrant because they want to observe and learn from the mistakes made by the early entrants.
Before we start, let me introduce my name first. I am Jerneth Servera. Let's start. Which is better? Greenfield or acquisition? The choice depends on the situation confronting the firm. The Greenfield strategy: build a subsidiary from the ground up, in addition to the construction of new production facilities. These projects can also include the building of new distribution hubs, offices, and living quarters. A greenfield venture may be better when the firm needs to transfer organizationally embedded competency skills, routine, and culture. A greenfield project is where the entire project has to start from the scratch and everything from planning to implementation is new. In international trade and investments, there are certain limitations and restrictions while entering foreign markets. Hence, to overcome such entry barriers, greenfield investment strategy is used by big firms to get access to all the potential foreign markets. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Starbucks are great examples of US firms that have invested in greenfield projects around the world. An acquisition strategy is a comprehensive plan that identifies and describes the acquisition approach that program management will follow to manage program risk and meet program objectives. Acquisition may be better when there are well-established competitors or global competitors interested in expanding. An acquisition is when one company purchases most of all of another company shares to gain control of that company, purchasing more than 50% of target firm stocks and other assets allows the acquirer to make decisions about newly acquired assets without approval of the company's other shareholders. A customer acquisition strategy can be deployed on a variety of fronts. Some examples include SEO optimization, content marketing, affiliate marketing, digital advertising, and traditional advertising. Also trade shows, direct mail, email, and social media campaigns. The volume of growth. Border acquisition has been rising from the last 2 decades. Why choose greenfield? The advantages of greenfield investments include increased investor control relative to investing in an existing local business, as well as the opportunity to form marketing partnerships and avoid intermediary costs. The main advantage of greenfield venture is that it gives the firm a greater ability to build the kind of subsidiary company that it wants. But greenfield ventures are slower to establish. Greenfield ventures are also risky. Why choose acquisition? An acquisition can help to increase the market share of your company quickly. Even though competition can be challenging, growth through acquisition can be helpful in gaining competitive edge in the marketplace. The process helps achieve market synergies. Acquisitions are attractive because they are quick to execute. They enable firms to preempt their competitors. They may be less risky than greenfield ventures. Acquisition can fail when the acquiring firm overpays for the acquired firm, the cultures of acquiring and acquired firm clash, anticipated synergies are slow and difficult to achieve. There is an inadequate pre-acquisition screening. To avoid this problem, firms should carefully screen the firm to be acquired, move rapidly to implement an integration plan. What is strategic alliances? Strategic alliances refers to cooperative agreements between potential or actual competitors, aka strategic partnership, range from formal joint ventures to short-term contractual agreements. The number of strategic alliances has exploded in recent decades. Example of strategic alliances: the deal between Starbucks and Barnes & Noble is a classic example of strategic alliance. Starbucks brews the coffee, Barnes & Noble stocks the books. Both companies do what they do best while sharing the cost of space to the benefit of both companies. Why choose strategic alliances? Companies decide to form strategic global business alliances for many reasons. One of the most important reasons is to gain access to another company's knowledge or resources. Companies can also decide to join forces to develop new products or to enter markets that neither could enter alone. Strategic alliances are attractive because they facilitate entry into a foreign market, allow firms to share the fixed cost and risk of developing new products or processes, bring together complementary skills and assets that neither partner could easily develop on its own, help a firm establish technologically standards for the industry that will benefit the firm. But the firm needs to be careful not to give away more than it receives. What makes strategic alliance successful? Successful alliances depends on the ability of individuals on both sides to work almost as if they were employed by the same company. For this kind of collaboration to occur, team members must know how their counterparts operate, how they make decisions, how to allocate resources, how they share information. The success of an alliance is a function of partner selection. A good partner helps the firm achieve its strategic goals and has the capabilities the firm lacks and that it values. Share the firm's vision for the purpose of the alliance will not exploit the alliance for its own ends. Alliance structure. The alliance should make it difficult to transfer technology not meant to be transferred, have contractual safeguards to guard against the risk of opportunism by a partner, allow for skills and technology swap with equitable gain, minimize the risk of opportunism by alliance partner. The way the alliance is managed requires interpersonal relationship between managers, cultural